Uh, trying to decide if I want to go like actual name or I don't want to.
Star
I
Wars
don't want to
channel
beat that.
name.
Star Wars channel name.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just I definitely am not gonna. I'm definitely not gonna use my character name because I want to save that.
Evan Furry.
No, 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 no.
Ewok
I'll just
Lover
go with my name.
22.
That's just CT8008.
There we go.
No, I'll just use Bolt because that's just what I am in your Twitch chat, and that's like technically my online persona technically.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool clone name too.
Bolt. I probably will at some point in my series. One of my clones will have to have some Bolt type name. Although I do have some. It won't be my commander. I kind of know my clone commander's name already.
That's sick.
Not gonna spoil it though.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
And we are. You're massive on my screen. Let me just.
I can back up.
No, you should be good.
All right.
There we go. Perfect.
I'll try not to move around too much off center.
No, you're good. I like to like match, so it's nice and easy.
Yeah.
There's a tall fella, but I can do this. There we go. All right.
I've seen way more extreme versions of that. This ain't even bad.
This is actually so much more comfortable because I'm too tall for my standing desk. Sitting down, I'm looking down. Standing up, I'm looking down. I'm too tall for life. But I am not too tall for episode 47 of the Archives podcast. Welcome on back, everybody. We have officially a returning co-host, 2 episodes in a row. As, of course, you guys just listened to Ships and Criff last week. So, appreciate you guys for coming through, checking it out. And today we are joined by none other than Bolt Furry. How you doing, pal?
Why is that a bit you're gonna continue? Oh man,
I genuinely don't even remember where it started from.
Start putting me as an Ewok or something.
That works. I genuinely don't even know where it came from. I already forgot.
You just decided that.
No, it was to do with something, but I can't remember. Anywho, welcome on in, pal. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been good. Been kind of busy, but it's been a pretty good week overall. I finally am getting my sister to watch Andor.
Nice.
So
man, are we gonna talk about Andor? Oh man.
Given the topic he wanted me to discuss, we might not be able to get to Andor because I feel like those things that you said we were going to talk about, I don't feel like I can find really any of those in Andor.
No, that's true. That's true.
Andor is a beautiful show.
So we can get started and get right into it, or we can like ease our way into it. How would you like to approach this? I'm more of an easer myself, but
I think it's going to be ease in because, I mean, today we're talking about our icks, our dislikes, and Star Wars stuff. And I feel like it'd be really, really weird for us to start like, this upbeat mood and then just like, we're mad. So yeah, I think let's just ease into it today.
We have some questions that I've compiled. Some from Reddit, some from X, some from YouTube comments years ago, and some that I had to beg people to ask me. So we have some questions, and these will be some really fun ones.
Okay.
The first one, I need to find it. And this is nice for you too, because we can get some like lore on Bolt. So the first question comes in from Omar. As fans, we often share Star Wars with the people that we love. I'm curious, who was the first person that shared Star Wars with you, and what did that mean?
I mean, my parents are Star Wars fans, my dad especially. And so I would say it was definitely, I distinctly remember, it was actually in the room I'm in now. that I watched A New Hope for the first time. It's on a TV that is literally like 6 feet in front of me this direction. I haven't watched anything on that TV in years, but I can tell you maybe how old as I was off the top of my head. I was probably, this is gonna sound crazy. I think I might have legitimately, I moved in this house when I was like 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
It was in this house. So I was like 8 or 9 when I saw Star Wars for the first time, which is crazy late, but that's the first time I saw it. And I like distinctly remember like sitting down with my whole family in this room and just watching that movie for the first time. And then, later on watching, Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi, and then later on everything else. And that was just kind of my first exposure to it. And which is funny because like I think I definitely had Star Wars toys, 100%. I just never watched them. But that was where I got my first exposure to it, and it's kind of just been a slow falling in love with over the next 4 or 5 next so years. Kind of really culminating through Rebels is when I really got into like Star Wars is my like favorite franchise, and it's the thing I'm a total nerd about, and it's just kind of continued. So yeah.
Hell yeah. There was another question that was pretty similar, but I was kind of hoping it would be able to be used as a follow-up. Alyssa asked, what was the very first moment that Star Wars truly hooked you, and how has that moment stayed with you all these years? And you mentioned Rebels. Was it Rebels? Was that the hook, line, and sinker for you?
Yeah, I think it really was Rebels.
Hell yeah.
Just because if you look at where I was in my life, right at that point, I was, I was like 8, 9 when Rebels came out.
Sure.
So, like, I also like have like distinct memories of like waking up in the early hours of the morning to watch Clone Wars because my parents like wouldn't let me watch it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I have distinct like memories of that. But I think Rebels was like really the point where like I would like sit down and watch it with my dad and sister, and I just was like, I love these characters. I think this is really fun and entertaining, and I just loved it. And then the show continued to improve because I think everyone would agree that even outside of character development or whatever, the production quality of Rebel Season 4 was better than Season 1. That show matured as a show. The characters matured as characters. And a lot of the fans of that show matured as people over that span of time, too. Mm-hmm. And so that show really, like, by the end of that show, I was like, Star Wars had gone from this thing that I was like, oh, this is a cool little fun thing, space fantasy. I wasn't thinking about it like that being like 8 to like now it's like Star Wars is my thing. And so I'd say, yeah, Rebels 100% was where I got hooked. Honestly, my 2 favorite characters, the majority of their screen time in the Star Wars universe is in Rebels, being Ezra and Thrawn. Ooh, I will always have attachments to those characters because of that show.
I thought you were going Rex, low key.
No, Rex has so much more screen time in Clone Wars.
No, for sure. I misinterpreted what you said. I thought you were gonna say Rex, and I thought you meant the 2 things that had the most screen time would have been Rebels and Clone Wars. But yeah. No, Thrawn, I really enjoyed Thrawn and Rebels. People seem like pissy about Thrawn, and that part was so weird. I think we talked about that in a live stream of mine recently, but like people are very, I call them Thrawn, what is it? Thrawn merchants. The people that like rank Heir to the Empire as like the best Star Wars book, when personally I don't think it is. It's a good book, don't get me wrong, but I think they are just Thrawn merchants. And people don't like how Thrawn's been interpreted in Rebels, in Ahsoka, and it's like, what do you want to do when like the creator is genuinely assisting the writing of Thrawn's character? What do you want us to do here, man? Like, you're putting us in a bind. But
yeah, I think that's the difficulty with Thrawn, is that Thrawn is such a powerful character. Thrawn is not a Jedi or a Sith, and he is not a hero or a villain in the traditional sense. he is at least in the canonized version of his story, he is a Chiss who was
Right, he's an alien, not even to humans,
he's
but like
alien to the galaxy as a whole.
To the galaxy.
And he is, exiled for political reasons so that he can go and investigate what is going on with the Empire in the galaxy to figure out whether or not there's a threat to the Chiss Ascendancy. Mm-hmm. And he is this amazing tactical mind. Have you read the Ascendancy novels at all?
The first one, like halfway through.
Okay. So not to get any big spoilers, don't want to really ruin any of it for anyone because they are excellent books. I haven't read all of them, but everything that Timothy Zahn has written, both canon and not canon about Thrawn, is phenomenal and is absolutely worth a read if you have not read it already. But what happens in that first book is it kind of outlines a whole lot of his, rising up in the ranks and how he got to where he was, and him really just maturing in this incredible ability he has strategically. Mm-hmm. And as he's in training, there is a point where he's about to get expelled because they think he is cheating because he somehow made his like big cruiser type ship invisible. And they're like, yeah, no, you can't do that. That's not a real thing. Like, these don't have cloaking devices. And he's like, no, I swear I didn't cheat. And they're like, well, too bad. You can't prove it because we can't let you replicate tests. And they're like, hold on, let's just let him do it for real. Let's just do a simulated battle up in orbit. And they let him do it, and he does this insane thing that no one would ever thought of. And they're like, oh, hey, it actually did make the ship go off scanners. Like, he is an insane tactical mind. And you see other things, and I believe it was alliances. He, listens to this other, Imperial officer's music that he's composed, orchestral music that he's composed. And he listens to, the sections of the orchestra that he uses in certain parts. And he manages to figure out, okay, this is the kind of battle tactics that he's going to bring against me.
Yeah.
That is absurd.
Yeah.
That is inhuman, like literally inhuman.
That's a crazy form of autism.
It is unbelievably smart and intelligent for him to be able to do that.
100%.
And so when you bring that into a Star Wars, into a, on-screen universe where you have, where your protagonists are good guys fighting the Empire, you have the difficulty of, how do I let them win? Because with the way that Thrawn gets to be portrayed in a lot of his canon stuff, actually in all of his canon stuff that's not on screen, all of his canon books, Thrawn should win these interactions every time. Mm-hmm. I think the only one that I think Thrawn does legitimately lose is the Battle of Lothal. Because
he lost to a Jedi.
He lost to a Jedi. He lost to the Force's will.
Yep.
As we see through Bendu in season 3 in 0 Hour. And then B, he lost through an insane and just even more outrageous plan than Thrawn comes up with, sacrifice from Ezra with the Purrgil. That is a completely out of his hands loss. But the losses he's kind of taken in Ahsoka, and the way that Thrawn kind of is playing the game in Ahsoka feels a bit off.
But doesn't he win the game though? Like
he does. He does make it back.
Yeah, he's back. Thrawn's back, and he
ultimately gets what he wants. But I feel like the way he got there, it felt like he wasn't as dominant as Thrawn as people wanted to see Thrawn. I think people were disappointed in that. I think people wanted to see Thrawn dominance, which again is not an option. I think that's the thing is a lot of people are like, the Thrawn fans want to see Thrawn in full Thrawn mode. Full Thrawn mode is too powerful for on screen.
Right, and to be fair, he's only working with what resources he's got after how many years? It's been almost a decade and a half since Rebels at that point, and he's just trying to get back.
Yeah,
that's all he's trying to do.
Is that there's got to be something that I've missed or forgotten, because I feel like the way that Thrawn has been portrayed, at least especially in the first just Thrawn novel by Timothy Zahn that came out in 2017 or whatever, or whenever it came out. The first canon one of the actual mainline Thrawn trilogy.
You want me to check? I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I got you.
um, he portrays Thrawn as a character again who was exiled and is wanting to investigate what's up with the Empire.
So
yeah,
sick.
that one.
So
Such
sick.
a sick cover art. And he kind of is portrayed as like Thrawn is bought into the Empire for the purpose of this is, maybe like order. Maybe he likes the idea of order. He seems like to be a very organized, very cynical guy, right? He's bought into that part.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, the way Thrawn is at least portrayed in the first book is that he does not care about the Empire in terms of he's not bought into like everything. He is only here to move up and just get information.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's weird. It's like, okay, I got slingshotted out of the freaking galaxy to another one.
A sick galaxy, but just a desolate one.
Yeah, why would Thrawn still care? Does Thrawn still care? Is he going to come back and find out that, oh, hey, the Emperor's dead? His Death Star, Tarkin's Death Star idea was in fact as stupid as I thought it was. And now the New Republic is set up, and they honestly are probably not going to be an issue to us.
I think.
If anything,
so. I think he's going to.
If he knows the First Order exists, I think he'd be more scared of the First Order and would probably want to either infiltrate the First Order or,
First Order does not exist at that point.
I feel like you'd be more concerned about Imperial Remnant, right? Because that was a lot of extremists.
Yeah, the Imperial Remnant is around. I think Thrawn is the curator of the First Order. My headcanon. Before Ahsoka Season 2, that's my prediction. But the First Order begins lobbying for a seat in the Galactic Senate. The First Order, the Imperial Remnant, but we're calling them the First Order because that's what they are. It's still the Empire. They start lobbying for a seat in the Senate during Ahsoka. We see that with like the senatorial stuff with C-3PO and everyone's there. But it doesn't start really kicking into gear and expediting things until 15 years after the Battle of Yavin. And that's when they start kidnapping kids, kicking into gear with their training in the unknown regions. And then I think they don't send a warning shot until 23 years after the Battle of Yavin. So I think Thrawn brought everyone together. Because everyone says, long live the Empire. Long live the Empire. Thrawn's the Emperor now. That? Yeah, he's the Emperor now. That's what heir to the Empire means. It's his empire.
Yeah, in there, but that's old legends. We're talking about modern canon, and modern canon Thrawn is described in my memory as an informant, right? He is not there. He didn't join the Empire for kicks and giggles because he didn't like the Ascendancy. He joined the Empire because the Ascendancy wanted him to.
True, but I think he had it good in the Empire. He got held back.
Did he though?
I think so, for an alien.
Yeah, but I mean, again, he was treated as an alien.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, he got on the Emperor's good side because the Emperor saw the value in him. But I mean, you see it throughout, at least especially in the first novel, you see him treated terribly because he wasn't human.
100%. And he never got the resources either that he probably could have had.
Yeah, and the other thing about Thrawn is that like Thrawn is not a partier. He was never going to any of the Senate galas or whatever. He didn't care.
No.
He wasn't for all of that, frivolousness. He was just like, I study tactics and I study art. And
he meditates. When we meet him for the first time, he's meditating in the dark.
Yeah. I think the other people's probably pissiness about Thrawn, especially in Ahsoka, is just that I think we were all happy and I personally was happy that Lars Mikkelsen got the opportunity to play Thrawn on screen.
Yeah.
He just has such a beautiful voice for Thrawn in Rebels, and getting to hear that and see him on screen, that presence was sick. However, Lars Mikkelsen is also pretty old now.
Well, so would Thrawn.
Thrawn would be older, but the thing is it felt like Thrawn. It feels like Thrawn got pretty soft. He's looking kind of out of shape, and I just feel like Thrawn as a character would not have lost that discipline unless something happened that wasn't explained. Because I see Thrawn as a like, again, we see him, multiple times in the show, working with, training droids, fighting training droids, and he's an excellent combatant.
He's old. He's really
yes, he's old.
He's
but
old.
Do you really think that he would? But like the Jedi
I don't know how long.
Old.
How old did Chiss live to? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not off the top of the dome. I mean, I could go to Wikipedia.
That's where I'm on right now.
Okay, cool.
But he was born in 59 years before the Battle of Yavin. Ahsoka takes place Ahsoka takes place because you have to remember he's in his prime when he's fighting in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, this is true.
Ahsoka takes place 12 years after the Battle of Yavin. So we're talking about a 70-year-old Thrawn in Ahsoka.
Dang.
71 years old. Like, people tend to forget that. Ahsoka's like mid-50s in Ahsoka.
This is true. Ahsoka is getting up there.
Yeah. So, like, I don't think it's mid-50s. If she's, what?
What's Chiss lifespan? Did you find that?
Still looking for it. I would assume that they're, like, twice humans. No. 80 years comparable to human.
Okay, wow. I was not expecting that.
So Thrawn is 71. He's going to look out of shape. He's going to be fat. He's 71. 70.
Okay, understandable.
At the bare minimum, he's 69 years old. Bare minimum. And I think that's context that you can't just, like, who's to say that he's not still an ass kicker, but he's just taking it down a notch.
This is true.
Yeah, he doesn't need to. And that's the thing with the Ahsoka show, man. It was so solid. It was so sick. But people just felt like the finale was underwhelming. That's the general consensus I've seen. It's only the first part of 3. Because there's season 2 of Ahsoka. And then there's the Heir to the Empire movie. So all we need is Ezra Bridger to be back and Thrawn to be back. So we know where we're at.
My interesting thing is like I think they did this intentionally, but I think a lot of people also wanted more from what Baylan wanted on Peridia.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm very scared that now they gave us very, very little, and that because of the actor's death, that we are now not going to, that they are going to just say, okay, we're just going to bite that bullet and then just leave it.
Well, they did recast him, and it's a pretty cool guy who they recasted him with.
But, like, do they maybe just say, maybe we don't try this, right?
I think.
Do you think that they'll switch gears on that?
No, I think they follow through with it because, like, it's out of respect to the character.
Fair enough.
And Dave's a big respect guy. We know that as much. No, I think they doubled down, and I think they got a really good guy who's going to be the new Baylan Skoll. Have you ever seen Game of Thrones at all?
No.
Me neither. But typically that's where people know the guy from.
Okay.
I'll see if you know him from anywhere.
Let me see.
What's his freaking name? I'm a face person. Rory McCann is his name. He's played it in a lot of things. Game of Thrones, Gladiator 2. He's in Jumanji. He's been in a lot of, like, war stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of noticing too as I'm looking through this.
So I look forward to it. I think he's gonna do just fine, because they would not have cast somebody who wasn't going to do the job, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure they did extensive, this is not your character, this is not your interpretation, this is Balin Skull, do the job. But yeah. I'm excited for it, man. Like, next year's going to be so sick, because we get the Mando and Grogu in theaters movie, which is hype. Mando,
we haven't had an in theaters movie since prior to the pandemic, which is insane to think about.
Yeah.
It's like we're realizing now, like, oh my gosh, like, this year was the 5th anniversary of, like, lockdown, and it's like, it was several months before that we even had our last Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like, crazy to think about it. It's been so many years since we've had a Star Wars movie, and, like, I only saw 2 Star Wars movies in theaters, and one of them got fat hate because the movie that preceded it, being Solo, and then Skywalker and the Rise of Skywalker just got a good amount of hate. I saw that one twice.
Yeah, and that's crazy, man, because I loved Solo. It's so fun.
No, so I love Solo. It is still one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
100% fan service, but it was sick.
It's fine. They made fan service fun. They also had a good cast, like a very good cast.
Wow, we have gotten no news this summer at all. By the way, no Star Wars news since June 6th. And that is just to say that Mia Goth is going to be starring alongside our boy, friend of the program, Ryan Gosling, in Star Wars Starfighter. I cannot wait for that movie.
That is going to be sick.
Yeah, 100%. The upcoming release schedules is as followed. October 29th, 2025 on Disney Plus, Season 3 of Star Wars Visions comes out, featuring the return of the Ronin, which I'm really excited for. I kind of wish that they would just make a series about him and not do all these other really bad short episodes. I'm not a big fan of Visions.
Yeah, no, I just haven't got anything to stick. There's just been, it's because every episode is different. And I understand, like, the idea of it.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't know if it's been successful, because it's not really meant, I think, for the American market really in the same way. So for us, like, our perspective on that is completely different from someone, like, say, from Japan, where I think this show is made way more
or even fans towards of the studio. Like, yeah. I hope that people love it. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
So, Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Jon Favreau's first Star Wars directed feature film in theaters, May 22nd, 2026. We're also due to be getting what a lot of people are misinterpreting. We're getting Maul Shadowlord. And people think that's just going to be like a one season thing. Genuinely, that's the new direction for Lucasfilm Animation, is to do the underworld. So I think that's the start of a new era of, like, Clone Wars style content, which is so sick, because I loved how great the animation got in the end of Bad Batch. I know you didn't watch Bad Batch.
Yeah, I did watch Bad Batch.
No one watched Bad Batch, so it's.
I did. I watched all of it.
You know, do you remember the Asajj Ventress episode with the water? The water was so sick. And then when CX2 was, like, tackling one of the droids in the river with the waterfall, like, the water animation was so freaking good. Oh yeah,
that was sick.
But the episode with Asajj, she's, like, trialing Omega to see if she is force sensitive or just force atoned. Turned out she was just force atoned. But yeah, the animation has gotten so much better, and I love that for them.
Yeah, I'm really, like, watching, like, season 7 of Clone Wars and being like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like because I think like what happened really was they so I guess kind of what happened is like they had the animation style that they did for the movie and the show, and then for Clone Wars, and then they kind of just, I think they improved definitely over time, especially from movie to show. The show looks way better than the movie. They slowly tweaked it, but they didn't want to go too far. But then they put out Rebels, and Rebels obviously had a different art style, but they also were like, okay, we also know how to like 6 years better technology.
Yeah.
And so it was a slightly different art style. At the same time, they also, just cleaned it up, made it look a bit nicer. And then I think just kind of they came back to Clone Wars and like, okay, let's take all the advancements that we've gotten and stay true to like the visual style, but let's really lean into like we have more modern animation rendering now. And they did it really well, and it looks really good. And they said, boom, now let's make Bad Batch, and we get to see more of it. And I personally thought Bad Batch was really fun. It was
a lot of filler.
It was Clone Wars Part 2,
but a lot of killer.
Yeah, say what you want about Bad Batch, the rest of the show. That first episode, the like hour-long episode, oh, so good.
The first episode, and then the finales, man.
Yeah, both the season finales. Yeah,
the finales were always good, and then the season 3, the series finale. Just seeing us like what happens with the boys, what happens with Omega. She goes out to be a rebel pilot. Love that for her. I hope we get to see her in something.
Yeah.
Even just in passing and mentioning. But the episode of Bad Batch that always hangs on for me is the one with Crosshair, where he's out in the snow in the Imperial outpost, and he has to bring back the gear and also the wounded clone that completely shifts how he views the Empire. And as soon as they get back, Buddy's dying. He's begging them to help him, and they're like, no, he's a clone, let him die off. He caps his commanding officer. That is Star Wars. I love that, because it's just so guttural, it's so real, and it made for just fine television, very fine television. But I think that's the new direction for animation for Maul Shadowlord. A year later, I think it's the
direction of stories in general.
Yeah,
is just telling realer stories. I think that, and I think maybe some of it's just the climate in which we live culturally, but people are wanting these realer stories. People are loving to see that nitty gritty, and I think so much just the way Hollywood is now, is that there is so much more emphasis on just good character development, good storytelling, and from a lot of people that just want to see like characters who have a second, third, fourth meaning behind things, right? Who who do change, who do learn, who do grow, because while we get to see that in some of the Star Wars films, it's in a much more, I think, superficial, or not superficial, but it's more of a bird's eye view.
Right.
Because especially if the original trilogy, right, you see Luke mature, you see, Han become less selfish, all that throughout the films. But at the end of the day, those movies are about laser sword duels, space fights, fighting this big evil, fascist empire, whatever. And that's fine, because those movies were very fun. Star Wars movies at heart were made, to bring a sense of wonder, that childish sense of imagination, right? That's why I personally would encourage everyone who enjoyed the original trilogy, especially, go and watch Skeleton Crew. Because what basically you get to watch in Skeleton Crew is you get to see you get a really good mix of that more real storytelling, but you get to see the Star Wars universe through the eyes of a child, or through a group of children.
Can I interject?
And it's
right
like
here?
seeing it as a kid again. Yes.
Bro, I started watching it. I really like it.
Yeah.
Dude,
I told you.
So fun. It's fun.
Yes,
Like,
it's fun. You are getting to see the Star Wars universe through the lens of a child, and it
mhm.
takes you back to watching Star Wars as a child.
I just got to if go fuck yourself. You're not gonna watch it anyways. I just got to the part where Jod is holding Fern with the knife, saying, "Just yield. I don't want to hurt you. Just yield. I don't want to hurt you. Just yield. We don't have to fight." And little man comes rocking up with the lightsaber, and of course it's upside down and goes scattering, and he is character change. And that episode was awesome because Wim was devastated. He was devastated. He sat back and he's just like head in his hands, talking about like, I've always wanted this, you know, grand adventure for my life, but now that I'm in it, I'm scared. I'm lost. And Jod essentially told him exactly what I would have told him right there in the moment. And he gave him Jedi lessons. And I'm just so hyped to see where this goes, because there's no chance in hell that he's not going to make, because he just turned bad guy. He just turned bad guy on us out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. I know everyone, the entire space of the show has been, hey, don't trust him. Don't trust him. He's gone by like 3 or 4 different names so far. Everyone who's known one of those names is like, don't trust that guy. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. And he finally turned in a moment that you really weren't expecting it. So I'm really excited for the last couple of episodes. I think I have like 2 more episodes. Watching them tonight. And then, yeah, dude, the Skeleton Crew, man, it's fun. It's fun. And like you said, it goes through the lens of who it was made for. 10-year-old boys. That's who George made this for. That's when Matthew Stover was writing, want to say it was Shatterpoint, and equally when Dave started creating Clone Wars, George told them, remember to give them hope. Whoever reads this, whoever watches this, remember that they need to feel hope. And I was one of those kids that needed the hope, bro. I really was. Star Wars was my embodiment of hope. But it's a very fun show, and it's nice that it is so intimately connected to exactly who Star Wars is written for. It's really, really sick, and I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. But to go back to your point about the nitty-gritty that we're getting, we got to rant about Andor really quick. And I think that this will ease us into the segment that everyone knows and loves. Bro, Andor was perfect. And I've seen recently just a lot of revisionist history. I went back and checked. I went through Reddit threads. I went through Twitter. I went through YouTube comments. I went through YouTube videos. Andor was announced in 2018, right? May of 2018 at like D23 or something. Nobody wanted it. The ratio I found was about 92% to 8% that actually wanted it. And did you watch it as it was coming out, season 1?
Yeah, I watched it when it came out. Yeah, I was staying caught up with it for the most part.
Did you like look up any sort of reviews, any sort of rhetoric about it?
No, I really tend to not do that.
Same.
Usually, maybe like after the fact of the whole show, I might like, as it pops through my YouTube recommended, might watch something about it. But in general, I don't really care generally about other people's opinions. I sometimes appreciate seeing people's perspective, especially people who are way more, who are more of film and TV buffs. Really get into it. Who are in essence true storytellers and are super interested in all of that. And we'll break down like, oh hey, this was super super cool how they did this with this character and they foreshadowed this here. And I find that really interesting because it gives me greater appreciation for the show and really lets me understand, oh wow, this is a very intricate piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not the person who necessarily looks for that oftentimes. I usually am quite proud of myself when I can actually notice that because it's not the thing that's top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm generally just looking for, do I enjoy the story that's telling? Do I enjoy the way the story is being told? Do I feel like there's any kind of weird inconsistencies? Do I feel like, these characters hold true? And do I feel like it ultimately contributes something important to the Star Wars universe? And I don't think I realized to the extent that it did do those things.
Yeah.
When I first watched it. And I think for me, I think I did have the issue that a lot of people have had. Which is the pacing. Season 1 feels very, very slowly paced, especially those first couple episodes. And that was kind of its detriment early on, was that most people didn't really make it past episode 1 and 2.
Right.
People got bored. People thought the show was going to be super boring. They kind of thought that show wouldn't really improve much. And that ultimately, I think, is what hurt the way season 1 was viewed up until later on, was that it was slow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Andor season 1, didn't they do weekly episode releases and it was a single episode?
Correct.
That was the other thing, right?
And sometimes those episodes were like 30 minutes.
And they were underwhelming. From the perspective of a lot of people, especially when you say like, oh hey, I didn't feel like much happened here.
Yeah, because you got it's an echo chamber. You're waiting a week for that 36 minutes. You're already underwhelmed because it's 36 minutes. And then maybe it doesn't move along as fast as you'd wish, but it is an echo chamber.
Star Wars fans are used to Mandalorian, which was 6-8 episode seasons, much faster paced.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We were up, and Clone Wars, which is much shorter episodes, but was a lot of fillers, more typical, a kids TV show. And then we also have Star Wars movies, which are also again faster paced.
Mm-hmm.
Even the slower Star Wars movies are much faster paced than Andor season, which is multiple hours longer. And so that was kind of to its downfall. But I, being a Star Wars fan, I have tried to give everything a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I watched all of Book of Boba Fett. The only thing I haven't watched all the Visions. The only major media that I haven't really watched all would be Acolyte. I did watch the first couple episodes, and it instantly was setting off those icks for me. I was like, I don't like the way that some of these characters are being portrayed. I feel like the story feels really weird. I wasn't hearing good things about it. I was hearing that it's only going to get worse, and I was like, it's already setting off some of my red flags, and I don't want to, and I'm hearing bad things about it. And even if I maybe would have enjoyed it, I didn't want to run the risk
of entering with a predisposition
of A, that, and B, having my view of Disney Star Wars more than it already is. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy. I think there's some redeeming qualities of it, but I'm overall as a whole not a fan of the trilogy. And I think that's the thing for a lot of people, and I don't want to have that to where like, oh hey, this is one more strike I have against Disney Star Wars. I want to really lean into the Andor, right? I don't want to go into Andor with a bad taste in my mouth of Acolyte. I want to enjoy Andor, right? And so that I didn't watch all of that, but Andor was good. I never had any problems with it. I thought it was a good show. Mm-hmm. It was different, that's for sure, but we've kind of embraced that difference.
A good difference, one that I think was needed. One that was completely justified in its inception and its creation. And I was just telling someone this week, like, I don't think, like, he was nitpicking the most nitpicky things, and I'm like, I genuinely don't think that you could have done any better with the circumstances, with the money, with any of that. Like, I think you're in the same timeline as Andor. You know, we got to exist when this got created. That's pretty sick to me. That's pretty sick to me. And one thing that I'll always appreciate is being able to justify having a show that is away from the norm, like you said. But I really wanted this one to murder at the Emmys. I really did. I don't care about awards.
You deserve to.
Yeah, I don't care about award shows, but I wanted this show to murder, bro. I wanted it to do so well. And it's still up for a couple. It's won 4 so far, but even just the nominations, we kind of got screwed on. But Andor is just so great. I have the We Are the Gore on in the background right now. And not even those episodes, not even the powerful episodes, but it really is just the little things that makes Andor special. And finding those little things is, to me, what it's all about. Finding that happy medium to where you can push boundaries, where you can try things and feel like you can tangibly create a part of Star Wars, because this is a 26,000 year timeline that we have, and finding your space, finding your spot in Star Wars, I feel like it's every kid's dream. Whether you're make-believing with a toy lightsaber, whether you're clashing 2 action figures together, playing with friends, or just dreaming, you know? Or in yours, in my case, writing a book, creating something physically. And Andor, I feel like, is going to inspire a lot better Star Wars, touching where it hit. It sets a bar pretty high for anything to follow. And I'm genuinely glad that there's a nice, big, juicy gap between the thing we got prior to Andor and what comes after Andor. And I genuinely think, not to harp on it further and just keep writing it, but I genuinely think that there is going to be, just like before the Battle of Yavin and after the Battle of Yavin, before Andor and after Andor. And this is Disney Star Wars' chance to hit that reset button. This is their chance to say, we are Lucasfilm. Let's remember why we're here. Let's remember what our purpose is, and let's do this. Let's do this. Not everything's going to be generationally loved. Not everything is going to be supported and appreciated, because people still don't like the prequels. People don't want to give Clone Wars a chance. People don't want to give animation a chance. But this is a cultural shift, and what a time for a show like Andor to come out when the mass deportations were happening, when the riots for standing up for people were happening, because that's exactly what we were seeing on our TV screens, on our monitors, on our phones. We're seeing all of this happening, and we see what happens when you don't stand up for it, when you don't fight back, when you don't defend yourself like the Gormans did, you know? And the Gorman massacre. And I'm glad that we avoided something like that. But like I was talking to my friend about, man, the time for thoughts and prayers needs to go, and it's time to actually do stuff about it. And I feel like Andor was a prime representation of that, as well as a great fucking show.
I thought, yeah, Andor was super interesting because, and a lot of people describe it as adult Star Wars, and and the word adult oftentimes has a lot of very different connotations from, I think, the way that it was being used with Andor. It's really more so that Andor is a more mature and it's a more real representation of Star Wars. It is not.
It's pragmatic.
Space fantasy. It is pragmatic, right? It is real. These are real people. We see, we see something that, we've never really seen in Star Wars previously. We saw, occasionally, but, we saw very early on in Andor season 1, we saw death of a love interest, very early on, and we saw, again, the cost, right? It's not just, cannon fodder, stormtroopers and, random rebel soldiers, right? These are real people who had, the Empire, either did something to them that made them want to fight back, or, gave them no other choice but, to join the Corps, whatever. These were real people. It was like that arc that little mini arc that they had with Bix struggling with that trooper that they killed, right, in season 2. That's real. That is such a real thing for the human mind. Is that taking a life for the first time, watching life being taken, watching the fear in someone's eyes,
even by like
you up,
and watching what the person that you love is capable of.
Yes,
because she's heard Cassian's stories. She knows what he's doing, but now she's seeing it in front of her. And not just in front of her, there's the survivor's guilt. Like, he killed her. He killed the boy for her.
Yeah.
And that is going to be on her back, on her mind forever. And yeah, dude, these are real things.
Yeah, and it's beautiful for that, but it was super interesting because not only did they, there was two really wonderful aspects of that were thought-provoking about that show. First of all, after every single, I'm pretty sure I did my best to always sit down and watch the entire 3-episode arc for season 2. Whenever I got the chance, I would do episode by episode. I tried to do all 3 episodes at once. And what I found with that was that pretty much after every arc, first of all, every arc ended with, I feel like, with some type of bang that I was like, whoa.
Right.
And basically I found myself the rest of that day just like ranting to myself and like asking myself questions about that, and like just like talking to myself about like, this was super cool. I can't believe that they did this. It's like, whoa, like, I can't remember this is how the arc ended. Well, I think it was close to the ending of how Cyril died. And I was like,
that came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere. And the way that he dies is so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is actually just heartbreaking when you really sit down and think about it. Like, this is, like, Cassian is this, like, figure. He doesn't even really... I think Cassian, in Cyril's mind, and I think you would agree with this, he didn't care about Cassian getting justice in the same way that he did initially. He didn't care about Cassian's justice for the purpose of he wanted, this guy who, committed this crime to, be brought to justice. He cared because of what Cassian represented. Because Cassian, in his mind, represented what was wrong with the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, like, idea and that figure to not even recognize him as having contributed in a way that he didn't even know who he was, and then to just die, and that's the thought that's on his mind. He dies with the thought of, this guy who I have been chasing for years at this point doesn't even know who I am, and he doesn't care.
Right. And that's the thing with Cyril too, man, is you see early on, it's not about power for him. He was such a beautiful character, because you learn very early on just the kind of guy that he is. He's very comfortable where he is at. He's not very aspirational. He doesn't have these big dreams of these big things. He just has an idea of how the world should go. And he's very idealistically invested in the Empire. And you see that with his pockets piping. It's custom uniform. It's custom fit.
Modifications to his uniform, yeah.
Yeah, you see that with how he acts. You know, he's in that role. He's comfortable with it. He has no issue telling someone to get the fuck back to work, because that's how the Empire does it. You know, that's who he is. That is his life. He is ingrained in it. And I view that as a very far right, you know, MAGA person who's wearing the red hat, who's an enthusiast for it. And it was an example from one of my friends, but it's like, I think that people are waking up to what they voted for. And that's Cyril. In that moment, right before he dies, it's very symbolic that he walks to his death through death. It's very symbolic. And he's walking through the Gorman massacre. And he's walking past the monument that is being erected to remind people of the death by the hand of the Empire. At the very same moment, the Empire killing more and more of their people. So it's like a fool me one time, shame on you, fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. And Cyril sees this. He had just been, you know, put onto the entire plot that Dedra was doing the entire time. She was using him. And he realized it. And he walks solemnly to his death. And he sees the man that brought him here. So at the end, he sees his maker. And it's Cassian Andor. And inversely to where, you know, if you're Christian and you get to the gates of heaven and you're welcomed there by God, this is Cyril Karn and his own personal hell being met by the guy that sent him there, Cassian freaking Andor, and he doesn't even know who he is. Like you said, I think that is, in my eyes, the saddest death that that episode had. Sad in the realm of pathetic and just daunting. You know, it kind of wakes you up as a person. Like, is there anything that I'm doing that I could really make a change in, that I could really just change my mindset in? And I feel like there's a lot of Cyril in all of us for something or another. And Cyril's a very good representation of sometimes you just gotta slow down and think and make sure you're doing the right thing. Not right thing in your frame of mind, but the right thing as a human being, as a person. And like you were saying, that Andor was a very real, it was kind of tagged as adult Star Wars. I think a lot of that came from what that Imperial was trying to do to Bix as well, which is another very real thing that you have to think of her character right then and there. She's undocumented. She has nothing. She has nothing to her name but her friends and a place to sleep right then and there. And of course her husband Cassian, who it never really gets mentioned if they actually did get married, but like headcanon, are they genuinely married to you? Because Bix says my think husband will be back, and then when they're at the market, like, oh, my husband's always like this, he can't tolerate the heat, stuff like that. Did they get married?
I think that it would be very reasonable for them to. I think that, and even if I think it may not have ever been a real wedding, right? There probably wasn't any. There may not have even been any sort of ceremony. It may have been more than anything just an agreement between the two of them that like they are each other's person.
Yeah, and right? surely like Brasso and Will were there.
Yeah, and
and B2. You know, B2 was the flower boy.
And they like committed to that. And I think that, and it looks very different, right? Especially because I think, you know, we get to see two very, you know, even though we don't get to really see it much in the marriage sense, we get to see two very contrasting marital relationships in that season.
Do you know what I think, dude?
Between Lita and then Cassian and Bix, right? We see two completely different things, right? You know, we see these two people who are, you know, are just, it's an arranged marriage because of money and, you know, blackmail, honestly, to an extent. Versus we have two people who have seen a lot of terrible things, have maybe done some terrible things, but are close in a way that no one else is close to them. And understands them on a deeper level. And it's like, dude, like I've been going back, like I never watched them. I've been watching the Hunger Games movies. And
great movies. Like, they're fun.
Great movies. And it's like, you know, you feel bad for Gale because Gale seems like a great guy. I think he loves Katniss, but the problem is those nightmares, Gale's never going to share in those same nightmares. Only Peeta can, right? Only he will truly ever identify with her and understand her and be sympathetic to her in that way.
And right? I feel like that's a very harsh thing to, you know, draw back for Gale. But I know where you're going with this because like Bix and Cassian are in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you drew it with Lita as well. I really like how you drew it with Lita and how just different that it is. I don't think that they ever got a ceremony because that would explain when they finally get back together after how many missions and they're in that grungy Coruscant apartment. I think that just shows it doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, it just matters who you're with. And I think they do their wedding dance right then and there. The very, I'm forgetting what planet that they originate from, where they come from. Not Canary, but like on season 1. Ferrix. I think that's the Ferrix wedding march that they're doing together. And I just think, man, another criticism that I saw hefty was just about Bix leaving. And I'm like, well, she had to. But I think it's the most badass thing that a woman can do is be a mother. I think it's so fucking badass. Because you give a guy 1,000 tries to be a mom, he can't do it. You know, doesn't matter. But it really takes a strong woman to leave the man that she loves because she understands his importance for the galaxy trumps his importance to her and her child that she knows that she's about to have, that she knows she's about to be a single mother, and she's going to keep going through this. She's going to keep going through living in the Empire. She's going to keep going through the random checkpoints and the random stops and the sexual harassment. She's going to go through that because she's a woman and the Empire's still around. But she knows that it's more crucial for her husband to be fighting the fight than to just protect her when he can protect the entire galaxy. And I think Bix was very foresightful as a character for that, man.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's like, dude, again, like there's they add so much more depth to everything Cassian does in Rogue One.
Is that a lightning bolt?
And yeah, it is.
That's sick. Branding, bro. Let's go.
Yeah, it's at some point I'm gonna have to get a cross and a 2-3 and just kind of swap them out. Just kind of depends on the day what I'm gonna wear. But like his like seeming like distaste for Chirrut, right? And his and all of his belief in the Force. It's like, well, this random crazy Force person is the reason that the woman I love left me.
Right.
Right. That she was convinced that that if she stayed, that I wouldn't be able to fulfill my purpose. It's like, I don't want this purpose. Right. I don't want to fight the Empire. I want to just be with you. Right. I want to escape this. I want to run away. Right. And like, that's super interesting. And you have this idea of like, well, yeah, Cassian made this huge sacrifice, giving up his life, to prevent, for the hope, again, back to that idea of hope, for the hope that the Death Star could be taken down,
for the potential, for the idea, right? Yeah,
for having any remote chance, any possibility of even understanding how to do that. And that's a great sacrifice, but like at the same time, it's like big sacrifice too. Like, she did not have to do that, because a few months down the road, Cassian was gonna realize he would become a father, and
he would have left.
He would have been done. He would have said, "Nope, not doing it. Absolutely not. It's not happening." There would have been no going back. She had to leave, and she knew that. And she, I think, probably very well knew that his path was not a path towards a life together at the end of it all.
God,
his path was probably a path towards sacrifice.
The depressing, like, Tony Gilroy, shout outs, man. The last thing like that any of his friends tell him when this is all over with, go see Bix. Like, and then it cues to him walking to a ship, cutting to Rogue One. Like, the last thing any of his friends ever tell him, when this is all over, go see Bix. And he never got the chance for the rebellion. Yeah. It's devastating, man. Well, I think we've eased into it. And it's now time for everyone's favorite segment. This is called General Grievances.
Oh, thank you for not telling me you're calling it that. That's excellent.
Yeah, General Grievances. So, in this segment, we're going to ask our co-host, our Star Wars fan, or, in this case, we're going to ask Bolt for 5 things that bring him personal negativity towards whatever the thing is, Star Wars related. So without further ado, Bolt, do you have any questions before we start off?
Nope.
This is your... I'm a psychology minor. This is your therapy session. I'm not a licensed therapist, but this is your...
Not therapy advice.
This is your Star Wars therapy. So what is your first proposition? What is your first general grievance?
Star Wars needs more. I think the more realism they feed us, the more I want.
Mm-hmm.
I live for it. I want it. I want more of that, like, explain to me the technology, right? I want all of those those like cross-section guides that they've made for a bunch of the movies. I don't want that. I like that. It's cool. I enjoy it. But I want to listen to someone explain to me why this works and like how this works, right? Or I want to see like what does medicine really look like in the Star Wars universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's gonna be like when I probably go to like really sit down and really write my book. That's me. I think I'm gonna really probably sit down and spend a lot of time probably learning stuff because I'm gonna want to make it feel real.
100%,
Right?
man.
And it's like,
100%.
I feel like there is just such a because it's science fiction. Science fiction is science fiction space fantasy, right? Because of the nature of the Star Wars universe and and all the technology in it, it's scary to even try to approach an explanation of even the smallest things, even if it's just a fuel system, right? That's a scary thing. That's like I think hearing like explanations of things is where some of my favorite is what I think some of my favorite pieces of others sci-fi media do really well because I enjoy that information. Like I have this Dune thing behind me. I love Dune because Dune explains a lot of things in super cool ways, and it's like, that's a bit far-fetched, but there's an explanation.
Right.
There's an explanation for the fact that like they have this idea that the human mind can really be elevated. That once you eliminate computers and you really just zero in on this very specific thing, you can train to have people have very advanced minds. Super interesting idea, right? There's a lot of cool stuff in there, and I think my thing is just I hate it whenever they give us a taste and they only give us a taste.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you, man. We crave the back end of these universes. We crave that world building. The true thing,
right? Is you don't just know that, oh hey, Luke Skywalker flies an X-wing. You know that he flies a T-65 X-wing that has opening and closing S foils and has this model of cannon and can take this series of
astromechs. I know what kind of leather his seat is made out of.
Exactly.
I know the producer of the glass that Incom that sources from. I know who makes the glass. I know what planet they're from. I know who delivers it. Like, I do. I love the logistics.
We crave to see all the details. The economics and all of that. Like we crave those details.
Yeah. So massive shout out to where I get a lot of that from. 2 YouTube channels I highly recommend: Generation Tech and Stupendous Wave. Guys are so sick. Guys are so cool.
They make phenomenal content.
Mm-hmm. And they just teach so well.
Yep, they speak so well.
Yeah, I will never be as knowledgeable to make lore videos, but I can't wait to be done with my book so I can just do other things, other parts of the galaxy, other parts of the timeline, because I want to get into more of that back end stuff. Who is Incom? How did they rise to power to make X-wings, Y-wings, A-wings, B-wings, T-wings, V-wings?
Wings in general.
Where did they go after the Republic's contract expired? I want to know these things. Even as simple as like Star Wars currently, how it's world built, it is nice. It is fleshed out, but it does kind of feel like North Korea in the sense that they have just like matte paintings of stores that look like they're a grocery store, but it's just a matte painting that you drive by and you see, and you only get that one perspective from it, but you really want to get into it. You want to be immersed in it, and I think the immersion effect is really cool. As soon as you become a Star Wars fan, finding something that you can really immerse yourself in, that's where you get your bread and butter at, man. But that's
because that's just the fun thing about Star Wars is that I guess my next take would be that like we have this open universe, right? And I feel like Star Wars has the opportunity to be Star Wars is an excellent medium for telling stories.
Oh yeah.
It is an excellent medium, right? It is so easy to, in my mind, it would be super easy to go and run one of the Star Wars based RPGs, right? Because you can just throw it out to some planet in the outer rim that no one's ever heard of, that you made up yourself. You can make up the culture. You can do all these things, and nothing you do will at all in any way impact what's going on in the galaxy.
That's
And you
why
can
I
still tell
love the
a
extended universe,
fantastic
man.
story.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic thing, and I feel like we just do not get enough of it. We are. I want more. I want. That's the other thing that I loved about Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Was it was
Fresh.
removed from everything.
Yeah, it was fresh.
It told a completely new story.
Mm-hmm.
It's
What the hell's AT-ATN? Oh,
exactly.
ain't never heard of AT-ATN, me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It tells a completely new story that we never heard before. And even though yes, it's connected because of course, like yeah, it's all still the same galaxy. It's still this Jedi and Sith still exist. The Empire, Republic, whatever, are still a thing. But it's off to the side. It's not about Anakin or Luke or Rey or any of these other characters. It's about these completely different characters who live in a mindset that is just, they don't think about who these people are. They don't know who these people are. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And their lives aren't really affected by them. They're completely isolated. Really, like they are truly isolated, and that's super interesting.
The only time anyone ever cared was when those Anakin Skywalker highlights were coming on at prime time on the HoloNet, and they were seeing him. They had stats, they had statistics for kill counts and stuff on the HoloNet for the Clone Wars, bro. Like that's so OD.
That is going, man. When I write through Clone Wars, I am going to absolutely find a way to just really just show what that war was like from a perspective of just people in Coruscant, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, I think you get to see a little bit in Clone Wars how they kind of talk about like, oh hey, there's this like people in Naboo, which Naboo was I'd say wealthy mid-rim world, right? A very rich culturally world too. And dude, they were struggling, right? And
yeah, that's what's crazy about Naboo too. Like they were of class, yet their most expensive potential export they wouldn't sell to anyone. Their plasma, and
yeah,
so they could have been a superpower, but
could have been like Gorman.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they even had
because they had the
straight foliated calcite.
Synthetic calcite.
Calcite alternatives.
Calcite substitutes. Love that. We'll have to pitch that in. I would love to interview that guy so bad.
I loved hearing about how he said he felt really bad as he was doing those takes for everyone else in the room trying to
not laugh.
That
yeah.
For take after take after take.
But no, that's a solid. This is another solid grievance. Like I can't say shit. My book kicks off on Tatooine. I can't say shit. But I get you, man. Like my next book, 1828, is going to be so dope. So dope. It's gonna be a Western, and I can't fucking wait for it, man. And that's gonna have a prequel to it.
Dude, I've been sitting down and writing recently for an RPG that I'm gonna be doing within the Chronicles of Darkness system. If you ever heard of Chronicles of Darkness, and it's a super cool system. It's pretty similar to D&D, in that you kind of pick like you pick something called a splat, which is like a different monster.
Mm-hmm.
So you got some classic things like you got like demons, vampires, right? Very classic literature things. We will be, and generally the way you play it is everyone is all the same, like race. And so we're gonna be playing a game where we are changelings, which basically is a changeling. You were like taken into this like alternate realm called Arcadia. And you buy something called gentry, and you become whatever the gentry wants you to be in that moment. So if they really, really need a horse, you become their horse. If, the way I've heard it described is, if they are on a boat and there is no wind, you can become the literal wind in their sails.
That's nuts.
And so, and what we are doing is you're like a year after, is you're back into your old life a year after. But while you're gone, this creature replaces you and looks exactly like you, has all your memories, but you have no control over how it lived your life, right? And so I've been writing about what my character was like before that, right?
Interesting.
And I sat down, I wrote, and so I've been writing about his whole family, and I'm not even finished writing his family. And I sat down and wrote about 600 words about his dad. And then I went into some crazy insane mode and wrote like 2,000 plus words about his mom. And like I have developed these insanely deep and like rich backstories that are told to an extent from his perspective. You know, they're told in, you know, omniscient third person, but they are only with information that would make sense for him to have to an extent.
Got you.
And I'm like really tempted to, when I'm all done with this, to sit down and write it and just put it into a like short story form. Because I am falling in love with that character.
Isn't that so sick? Isn't that so sick? So don't tell me like too much about your Clone Wars main character. But
well, it's gonna go past Clone Wars. But yeah.
My question to you, as a fellow writer, do you sometimes have like these clashing feelings with your character and like trying to get them to where they need to go? I guess it's a little different with what I'm writing, because there is a point A and a point B, but do you ever come to moments where you really want to take them this way, but you have to go somewhere else?
Well, yeah, I think that is something I deal with, because like I kind of talked to you, I mean, you've seen my timeline that I've written out, right? And that's it's a very, very, like, it's not even like a bird's eye view. It's like the view of Earth from space view of the timeline.
It's Google
of
Maps.
what I want to write. Right? It's Google Maps, right? It's Google Earth.
Yeah.
Right? But you know, you can see the shape of the continents is really all you know, right? And you can point out, oh, here, you know, I can definitely, you know, make out, you know, this is the shape of where, you know, like Mexico is or whatever, right?
Yep.
But beyond that, right, you know, you don't have a lot of detail. But but again, like I said, I created this character as, you know, a make-believe character in elementary school. I have slowly but surely been in my head just randomly building out headcanon for this character for a decade, almost. And so I have already a pretty solid idea of the trajectory that his life is going to go and the decisions he's going to have to make on his way there. But there's a lot of times that when I look at this character, there's a lot of things that I'm like, this is going to be a conflicting decision here.
Right.
This is going to be a point where it's going to be really, really hard to write this in a way that makes sense for him in character. That this is going to be a decision that's going to be very difficult. And so I already know that's coming. And so like a lot of what I'm really wanting to write is I'm wanting to take this story and just flesh it out. I'm wanting to get into the street view, right? I want to go from Google Earth to street view. I'm wanting to see what was it like, you know, that in this moment when he, you know, met this person, or when he had to make this decision, or, potentially, you know, something that he did that, you know, he will regret,
right,
for the rest of his life, right? And that's the beauty of storytelling, and the beauty of books in general is you get to really see so much more, right? There's so much more detail and exposition that can take place, right? Because you can always have the ability in a book to go on a 2-page tangent about some random thing. Like, you absolutely have the freedom to, you know, go on some 2-page tangent of how, you know, of some story, you know, that you're at a bar and, you know, this, you know, particular alcoholic beverage that they're drinking, they have some, you know, past life experience that maybe was traumatic that's tied to that specific beverage or whatever. You can go on a 2-page tangent about that.
Yeah.
You can't that's not something you can get in a movie. You can't, why would you cut away? It's like, oh yeah, there's a drink that they're just drinking. Why? It's too slow. It's like, doesn't matter. But it's interesting for the character, right? And maybe all you get in the movie is just they like look at it and make a face. Yep. Right. Or you see them pause and think, right? In the book, you can expound on that. So that's why I just love reading. I love books because you get you get to see more.
I think
right?
you get to feel more.
You get to feel more too, yeah, because you get to really get explained what the characters' emotions really are.
Yeah, and where they came from and what contrived them and what in that moment triggered the feelings and stuff. So
so it feels unfair. That could, I guess we might agree with Star Wars is that, oh, I don't get to do that. But so, that's why there's books. I love all the books I've read.
And I
get to experience that.
I would have never said that I was going to write a book. That's pretty cool. That's pretty crazy. But like, just seeing it, I'm well over my page goal now, and I keep having fun with it, man. Like, I've accomplished everything I need to do. I need to figure out how I want to end this book, and just to see what happens. It's really fucking captivating, man, because like you're a fan too, first and foremost. But sometimes you have to set your fandom aside and do what's right for the story that's not really yours, but you're just renting the car to drive it.
Yeah.
And that's maybe something that I get stuck on at times. Not that I want to push things a certain direction, but it just is, especially in my case. There were decisions that were made that I wish weren't made, but they're made, and that cement is dry, so we have to go in that direction. And that's the part that I can't wait to get out of. So when I'm writing 1828 BBY, it's going to be nothing but fun because, like you said, like you alluded to, you can go and do whatever you want and no one will really hear about it.
There's not going to be the Reddit gremlin who is just going to be sitting down. It's like, but you see, because this was also going on, that read in Wikipedia. It's like, whatever, man.
Wasn't happening over here.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Sit down for 5 seconds and I'll come up with some excuse for you. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what? You didn't sit down and, put, like your heart and soul into this, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're doing it, for the love of the game, right? Because we love the Star Wars universe and we see it in a special way that like only fans can, right? That, we have this idea of it that it is this medium for storytelling, right? Not everyone sees it with it. Some people just see it as laser swords, blasters, and
hokey religions.
And hokey religions, exactly. Hey, U.S. Army's got something figured out. They let you legally put your religion as Jedi, which is dope.
I've done that.
So you can just straight up have Jedi on your dog tags. It's sick. U.S. government, I find it.
I've done it on the past census that came through. I did it.
That's huge.
Because you can, like.
I'm pretty sure at one point on the Australian census, it was like one of the largest religions.
Probably around Phantom.
Probably. I think it was like early 2000s or late 90s.
Such a good movie, by the way. I love Phantom Menace.
Yep. Dude, I saw an edit recently where someone basically made the concept of like of when Qui-Gon was meditating during that duel, what all he saw, and he basically saw that like, oh yeah, he had to die, right? And it's like all these different like super super cool cuts, to all these different things. And I was like, dang, like
my buddy Silas sent me that.
Yeah, it was like, dude, that was good.
That is
because this really is what happened.
And that's Qui-Gon.
Yeah,
he was constantly trying to understand what was to come and what his purpose was, But
yeah,
that's another really solid grievance, man.
dude. I mean, dude, we could sit down for hours and talk about Qui-Gon versus the Jedi Order and what the Jedi Order became in its final two. We could sit down and talk about that for ages, dude, because that is such an interesting conversation to be had. The fall of the Jedi Order really was so. The way that it fell was not deserved. That was evil. But the Jedi had it coming in their arrogance.
Right.
Right. And again, George Lucas, just excellent storytelling. Like, dude, I love how George Lucas just, told such interesting stories and how he really did right from the history books, right? Because the evolution of the Republic to the Empire is pretty blatantly almost the exact same as the Roman Republic to Empire transition.
I need to look into that.
Very similar. It really is very similar. Just the government, especially at least particularly the governmental structure, really. Because even after Rome became an empire, it still had a Senate, but the Senate didn't really do much. Right?
Yeah, they were just kind of there to basically, drink water, eat donuts until the Death Star finished.
Yeah,
and at that point,
they it's like he said, it's like he says in, it's like Palpatine says in Clone Wars. I think it was, we must allow the wheels of the Senate to turn. Right, because in a society, if you can give people the idea that there's a choice, right, the illusion of choice, people will continue to think they're free.
Yep.
Even when you have actually taken choices away, right? You may be controlling the elections. You may be getting, your pundits in and letting, people like Mon Mothma and Bail Organa continue to stay, as senators just because, otherwise then it starts to look too suspicious, right? But you can keep making sure, you can keep running elections to get pundits in power. And so then your agenda keeps moving forward. And like, dude, that speech from Mon Mothma and Andor, dude, back to the Andor rant, that speech that Mon Mothma gives, oh, dude, it is so good, dude. That was so well written. It's about that slow little creep, and how you eventually get to a point where people don't know what's true anymore, and the only truth that they have is whoever's voice that screams loudest at them.
Right.
Which is the most true statement of our world today.
Yep.
For everybody, for a lot of people.
100%.
Both sides of the political aisle experience that to a alarming degree, where truth is completely forsaken for the sake of whatever that person wants.
And whoever is the loudest.
Because whoever's the loudest. It is true of both sides. And that is just because it's true. Right?
It is.
Because so many people are it's just unfortunate, but a lot of people are just too lazy or too, depraved to really sit down and think about, oh my gosh, to really sit down and think about, those deeper things.
They have the choice and they don't want to make it for themselves.
Exactly. They are dependent.
Right. They're the herd.
It's really sad.
And that's how 1936 happens. That's how 1941 happens. That's how 1966 happens. That's how 2025 is happening. Like, it's just constant. It's how people are. And to be able to show the error in people's ways so eloquently.
Oh, yeah.
In so many vastly different forms. Rebels. Phantom Menace. Force Awakens doesn't do shit.
It really didn't. It's just A New Hope, but with new characters. I'm sorry. That's my biggest complaint about that movie. Like, I'm not gonna make that my ick. Well, actually, I could. My biggest ick with the sequels is that it feels like I am just watching a painted over, reskin version of the original trilogy and because there's just way too similar of plot points throughout all three of those movies. Like, way too similar.
Yeah. I just think that, you know, if you make the prequels 10 times, this is probably the worst that it gets.
Yeah.
And the simulations, like if you simulate making the sequels 10 times, 100 times, this is still as bad as it gets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think
it's just disjointed.
I think it gets like there's like 5. Like if you simmed it 100 times, I'd say probably about 20 of those times it still ends up really garbage because Rian Johnson takes 8 and completely messes up whatever J.J. Abrams had planned.
Yeah.
Because like I think like even J.J. Abrams' vision for Kylo Ren and what Kylo Ren was supposed to be, if that had taken place, well, okay, J.J. Abrams' vision according to Adam Driver, right? If that had taken place, that ick is completely removed to an extent of me feeling like they're the same movies, because Kylo Ren, as opposed to having a very Vader-esque arc where he starts out literally like also like being obsessed with Vader, like in like a weird way, like it's like celebrities. He just wants to be Vader, and he's like super evil at the start, and he gets more and more conflicted, ultimately becoming good at the end, like Vader did. The way he originally wrote it was that Kylo Ren was going to start conflicted, which we kind of get to see in that movie a little bit, but he just gets even more conflicted. He's going to start conflicted, and he's going to go pure evil by the end. That was supposed to be the direction for that character. And if you have that, then my point is completely null, because that would completely change the whole dynamic of that trilogy. But instead, I mean, just to list a few of the things that, you know, off the top of my head, you can kind of work backwards. You know, that final, you know, you have very, very big space battle, right, between, you know, 50 million ships on one side, 50 million ships on the other side, and then Palpatine's like, oh, haha, suckers, I've just got this like super weapon, which is called, in one thing, the Death Star, he's just blowing stuff up individually. And then in Rise of Skywalker, he's just like, I have big force lightning this time. And he does that, right? It's just other more different, the Death Star working, right? I can assure you the shields be quite operational, just more of that, right? More of that, you know, sacrifice of the dark side one to save of, you know, of your overarching antagonist from the trilogy, sacrifice themselves to save the protagonist winning. Right? You know, if you go a little bit further back into Last Jedi, you have kind of this whole side misadventure of the Jedi, right, trying to get trained by an old person on a different planet. This old person is in exile, and was at one point Master of the Order. And then you have the other people out doing this like weird thing where they go to like this rich planet or whatever, and they're trying to make connections to, you know, get something to happen, to, you know, go and fight, to go back and, you know, save the rebellion or whatever. That movie opens with the First Order pulling up to the Rebel/Resistance base and this fight and them trying to evacuate in time. And there being some crazy last-ditch play that just works to help kind of save them a little bit. And then Force Awakens, oh my gosh, we start with this poor orphan kid basically on a desert planet who wants to be a good pilot, happens to be force sensitive and has really good genes for it too. They meet a droid and like
rescue the droid.
They rescue the droid, and it's just thing after thing after thing, and there's just another space super weapon that destroys planets again, and it's just like,
and wait,
and you have to do this targeted thing.
What ship do they leave the desert planet on?
The Millennium Falcon.
Oh, okay.
Like, dog, it's unfortunately I will always and the old timer who teaches them things, who has lots of wisdom, gets killed by the main antagonist as they watch.
In a big black suit?
In a big black suit.
Yeah. Okay.
It's, yeah.
And they scream no?
Yeah, no, there's just
They
so
scream
many.
no. Oh man.
The only difference in those scenes really is just Han Solo doesn't just um
Wait.
hum like
So you're
Obi-Wan did.
telling me, as soon as they both see their male role model get killed, you're telling me that they both have the mindset to lock the fuck in and help destroy a super space station weapon? Are you kidding me? Both of them? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
seriously. Um,
But the thing is, it was still sick. I liked it. You know? I
Yeah.
love A New Hope. It's just where they went after that. Soiled the bacon. And ruined it. They got greedy and they went way too left field with The Last Jedi. Because The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
it at least sets you up for a solid trilogy. You know who your antagonist is. You know how they got there. What happens to them now? What happened to them now just kind of sucked.
yeah, no, it was no Force Awakens. Yes, I do have that complaint with Force Awakens where it feels just like a reskin of A New Hope.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like the entire movie's reskin. It does have its unique features to it, right? And there are some very entertaining parts about the movie, and I don't really hate that movie as a movie standalone. I just feel like there was a lot of things where it was like,
I
space
don't
weapon,
like that
space
Ben
weapon,
is
right.
so old. I really don't like that. Ben's like in his early 30s.
Yeah,
That's too old. That's too old. Especially when Rey is meant to be the exact same age as Luke as well. So they're 19 when they leave their desert planet. And it's like, fuck, man.
It's rough. And it just went downhill from there. It felt like definitely, it was like I feel like no one would say, I guess I personally wouldn't say that it was better than A New Hope. Because it just felt like a New Hope reskin, but it would definitely had its redeeming qualities, like I said, and it felt like a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, again, considering that, that came out in 2015, which is crazy that movie turned 10 this year.
Do you know what it also had, bro? Thinking about it?
It was 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, right? It's been 10 years since a Star Wars movie, and I think people were very excited about Star Wars being back again.
Mm-hmm. And we're gonna get it in Swigo too, man. Yeah. They wasted it. It was a really sick start. It's kind of like...
Yeah.
It feels like drafting Mike Trout in fantasy. You feel good about it, but you know how it's going to end up. That's what it is watching The Force Awakens now. It's like you have a great time watching it. But, shit, when it's over, you know what happens next.
Yep. And that makes me sad. Especially because I think, unfortunately, because of that, it really has just marred people's views of Disney and Star Wars. And I think that the level of quality of movies that they'd have to put out to ever fully heal that it's just not possible.
I think
I think okay, it's possible, but I think they would essentially have to somehow make a Star Wars that is Oscar Best Picture winner. And while I don't think that it is beyond the capability of Star Wars to do that, I don't think there's any Star Wars story that's going to get told that is not going to get beaten out by some other movie that is not already a part of some expanded franchise. Because I think expanded franchises like Star Wars would have trouble with that.
Hey man, we got Ryan Gosling. We got hope.
We got hope.
That boy is our only hope at an Oscar. Best Picture.
Well, no, we might get a Best Actor out of Ryan Gosling. I still don't think we're going to get a Best Picture I don't think we'll even get a nomination for that.
Dude, just imagine though, the Starfighter's so sick.
The only hope we have for a Star Wars Best Picture is probably something Republic era, maybe old Republic era. directed by Christopher Nolan.
That'd be sick. I'd love to see.
Look, dude,
I'd love to see his Force lightning.
Man, that'd be fun.
His Force lightning practical effect.
Dude, he would. Oh, dude, he. Don't make me even start to.
Someone will literally die.
Hijinks.
Yeah, someone will literally die for the love of the game. You know, but.
Oh my gosh.
Mando could be really sick.
I think it could be. And that's what I'm saying. I think Star Wars can redeem itself for a lot of the people who have continued. Like for me, I think that Disney is like almost. It's like a net positive in my opinion at this point.
Yeah. Because of Andor.
Between Andor and because. Again, Clone Wars and Rebels is still really honestly under Disney.
And I like Ahsoka.
And Ahsoka was good. You know, there's a couple of issues, I think, in Mandalorian, but I think overall, as a show, I enjoyed it. Really, the biggest things, you know, the strikes against Disney are the sequels. Boba Fett, I just could not find myself enjoying really at any point. And then Acolyte. I'm not going to count Visions. Visions is not a part of the mainline universe. It is its own thing, and again, it's not for us, right? In the same way, and I think that what it does is cool, right? I have no issue with it. If people
do we count the
it's making Star Wars, it's Star Wars as a medium, and I do appreciate that about it.
Do we count the Fallen Order games in that, and like Battlefront 2?
Oh yeah, okay. Video games, yes, absolutely.
Because I think
I'd still say just because of the fact I think you have to weigh. And Rogue One and Solo were also very good, but I think you do have to give the sequel trilogy a lot more weight in that conversation because they are supposed to be the culmination of the mainline Skywalker saga.
Right, and they're S-tier importance. They're episodic movies, you know.
Exactly. So they deserve a. So the fact that they messed them up should hurt their score more than messing up one episode of Mandalorian, right? Or messing up Book of Boba Fett, right? Because not everyone bought Disney Plus and watched Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett.
Correct.
But a lot of people went and saw those movies.
Made $1 billion.
Exactly. So that is really where I'm at where I'm really at on that.
I never really put it that way either. They do have more importance, like. When you're scaling things, it's not a one-for-one, like-for-like.
Yeah.
No, they made 2 really bad movies. Yeah, I can always give them a pass on Force Awakens.
Yeah, no, same. I can give them a pass on Force Awakens because that was a very good get you back into it jump-off point.
Yeah.
Right? And I think part of the reason, and I think you could definitely argue that, like, it was a good way to bring nostalgia for the old fans.
Mm-hmm.
But also bring this new life into it for new fans, right? For, you know, for the parents taking their kids, right? You know, like my dad, you know, who grew up, you know, in the 70s and 80s, right? You know, had, you know, Star Wars toys and stuff, you know, and all of that, you know, taking me to go see the new Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of it, is you're getting to see these stories, you know, fleshed out. And so I can definitely pass that movie, but like for every, you know, like us Andor truther, right?
I call us the Andor
phenomenal piece. Yeah, the most phenomenal piece of Star Wars media ever made. You know, also, you know, critically, review wise, also considered actually like statistically the best.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us would agree that, you know, it's different, and, you know, I'd say it's hard to call it the best because, again, Andor is a very different thing from Star Wars, and even though yes, from you know the original trilogy or whatever. They're 2 different things. Mm-hmm. But for every one of us that there is probably 3, maybe 4 people who have completely given up on Star Wars because, you know, they were just like, they saw the movies, you know, they know who Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker are and whatever, and will not want to touch Star Wars because of how bad the sequels were.
I would say more than just the one. I'd say like for every one of us is 20 people that have given up.
I'm being incredibly generous to Disney for how few people they've turned away.
Yeah.
Right. They have turned away so many people. There's so many people who just like, and even now, like I still see so many people who just hate Kathleen Kennedy. I think Kathleen Kennedy's reputation is actually irreparable. Disney Star Wars might be repairable, but Kathleen Kennedy's reputation will forever be tied to the sequel trilogy.
Yep.
Um,
which made $1 billion, but it just wasn't a fluid story, and that's why people are upset about it.
And it really is funny saying now about it's like forget about inflationary value. There's definitely been a point since Kathleen Kennedy and Disney took over Star Wars that George Lucas could have absolutely just made profit off selling Star Wars and buying it back. Because people hated it, man. I don't think it'd be that way anymore because I think it is kind of coming back, but it was rough, and it was hard to watch for a while. It was like, because again, like from my perspective, right, considering my age, right, I got into Star Wars right before its downfall in the public eye began.
Right.
So I kind of had this point where it was like
literally right before.
Why this thing that I'm in love with, this thing that I am, every single random like lore book that I can get my hands on that has all these different information, this back end stuff, all this like I'm learning the names of all specific blasters and all this. I'm super nerd, right? This thing that I'm a super nerd about is getting thrown into a dumpster and lit on fire.
Yep.
Right.
You're kind of getting hoed,
and that sucked. Yeah, and yeah. So I feel like that's my other grievance, was just that I picked like the best and worst time simultaneously to become a Star Wars fan. Because I think I became a Star Wars fan around the point when a lot more Star Wars content started being made. I also unfortunately started becoming a Star Wars fan at the time a lot more Star Wars content was being made.
At least like visual content.
Yes, visual content. Yeah, books, comics, whatever. Those never really stopped.
Right.
But a lot of but TV and movies, they started ramping back up. They started making a ton of those, right? I'm a very young child. I'm watching. Clone Wars is on, but I'm super young. And then I actually am watching all of Rebels as it's coming out each week on my DVR. And then the movies come out, and I later get to see the movies. Like I said, the first movie I got to see in theaters was Solo. That was such a fun experience.
Yeah, dude, I remember I was 10 when Clone Wars came out. So
dude, that was probably sick.
It was. I was so confused, like, hold up. That's not Anakin Skywalker. That is not his voice. But I got past that after a while.
It still throws me off. Like, I'll go back and watch the Clone Wars movie, and it's like, dang, they really got Samuel L. Jackson to do Mace Windu. But it throws me off because, well, Samuel L. Jackson makes perfect sense when you're seeing Samuel L. Jackson on screen. When you're so used to this other voice who appears in 7 seasons of Clone Wars, and you go back and watch the movie, and you're like, what?
Who the heck is this guy? Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't sound right. Like, it's so funny because it's like, when you see their faces, it sounds okay. But then they like go and get the actual voice actor, and it's like, whoa. Hold up now. How is it that like this character who is like the visual representation of Anakin Skywalker is Hayden Christensen? Yet somehow, if you were to put Hayden Christensen's voice over Matthew Wood's in Clone Wars, I would riot.
It would be.
I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. I think that...
Also, Matthew Wood, completely unnoticed cameo in Mandalorian.
Was he in Mando?
He was in Mandalorian. He was the guard on that prison ship that gets shot. He's like the one in the security room. That's Matthew Wood.
That what's his name?
The Twi'lek kills. No, it's the Devorian.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool, man. It makes me happy that people get their flowers and get shown and get seen. It is weird that they made so much of Keller and Beck, who was just like a Star Wars.com game show host.
I thought that was hilarious.
Same.
That was so good. I also love that they gave us Keller and Beck before they gave us Jar Jar Binks and Swigo. That's hilarious.
Right.
Keller and Beck got into the game like 5 seconds after we saw him on screen in Mando, and
they had that shit ready to go.
9 years.
Yeah.
That game was out for like 9 years before we got Jar Jar.
They had.
Granted, I understand fully why they wouldn't add Jar Jar, but like seriously, man.
That's the cool thing with Swigo. The thing that I really like about it. It's clear they have an idea, and it's also clear that like someone really wanted to put pirates into the game. It's kind of like
also crazy that like when that game came out in the hype of the return of Star Wars.
Yeah.
With Force Awakens, and so a lot of the early stuff in that game was all Force Awakens resistance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find funny about that is the fact that somehow in all of that, Maz was never introduced.
Right. Until now.
Like until now, like that blows my mind. It's like Maz has actually just not been a part of this game the whole time, which he actually is a pretty significant character through that trilogy. Which again, this whole trilogy was out in the first 4 years of this game's life.
Mm-hmm.
And this game is now 10 years old.
It is. Yeah, and to wrap things up, just another thing that was similar. He was more prominent in Lego Star Wars than they were in the actual movie, really. But the little Imperial spy guy with like the all black, he has the weird trunk, and he blows like a little flute.
Yeah.
Cloaked out at Mos Eisley's spaceports.
Shoot, what's his name?
But you know the guy I'm referring to. We'll put a picture on screen. Same vibe. Force Awakens. That First Order spy.
Yep.
We found the droid. You have sending coordinates. And I love that, you know, there's a cantina anyways, you know, in the Force Awakens.
Yep.
I'm really glad that Maz's castle, it's not a castle, that is a bar. That is a themed bar. Like, it's exactly what that is. They've got rooms that you can stay in, but she's going to charge you an exorbitant rate because that's fresh lakeside property in Takadana, you know, which I love. If you played Battlefront 2, just exploring Battlefront 2 with Boba Fett, just floating around Takadana, it's so sick. Same with Lego Star Wars, but it is a little too similar. All the story beats and stuff, like they are a little too on the nose. Like you copied our homework, but you made it look a little too alike. But no.
Speaking of games, I want more games. I want more Star Wars games.
Yeah, Outlaws was sick.
Multiplayer Star Wars.
We haven't had one since 2017.
And I want one.
Even the co-op, bro. Even co-op, I'd kill for.
Yeah. Yeah, like, dude, Star Wars Helldivers was just Commando.
Even as simple as let my girlfriend hop on a controller and play as Marin in the next Jedi game.
That'd be huge.
Or Knights of the Old Republic, the remake that's in developmental hell. Let me invite my friends to play as Zalbar, as Mission, as T3, as Karth, as Bastila. Whoever the fuck they want to choose, but let them play them while I'm Revan. Spoiler alert for if you haven't played KOTOR, you're Revan the whole time. But yeah, man. More games, so bad. Console games. PC games, just not mobile. Let's chill out with the mobile stuff.
Hold on, we did get a multiplayer game more recently than Battlefront 2 though.
Squadrons?
Yeah, Squadrons. Not like it was played as much as Battlefront 2 was.
But it is.
We did get Squadrons in
2018?
2020.
That was a 2020 release?
Yeah, it came out October 1st, 2020, so it's actually about to turn 5.
that's probably why it got ignored so much, because people were fucking locked down. Couldn't really. Gaming was expensive during lockdown.
Yeah, because everyone was doing it.
Yeah.
It was supply and demand. We had a semiconductor shortage, and everyone wanted semiconductors because everyone was stuck at home and had nothing else to do.
Yep.
Or everyone was building computers because everyone was suddenly working from home.
Honestly, I built my computer right before COVID.
That was probably huge.
It was,
you were probably balling, and everyone was like, I can't get anything.
I think it was like 1,200 or 1,600 during COVID. At its peak, it was a $3,400 build.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right.
Because I remember my buddy wanted to see my parts, so I was like, I have a link, and it was 3,400 when I checked. We have one final message. This is sent in from Mira. And I'll let you go first here, Bolt.
All right.
If you could sit across from George Lucas and Dave Filoni as a fan, what is the one question that you would ask from the heart?
Oh, dude, how dare you ask me a question? Ask me to ask a question. How dare you?
It's a pretty good question. I feel like most people.
Answering a question with a question is no. It's a very good question. Man, that's deep. I guess the question I'd ask. Well, I think I'd want to ask some different questions, really. Because their approach, where they came to Star Wars from, is two completely different situations, right? You have Dave Filoni, who has just got into a place where he gets to write Star Wars, right? But George Lucas created it, right?
Yeah.
Star Wars doesn't exist without George Lucas. And so I guess my question for George Lucas truly would be like, what was the moment that, like, I guess you realized what Star Wars was capable of becoming? Like, did you realize that, like, did you ever imagine, like, when you came up with the idea of this, space fantasy, that it would turn into a franchise that will, like, in a couple of years' time, we will be celebrating, 50th anniversary.
Which is
nuts.
A
lot of people are going to legitimately be, like, super excited about celebrating. That your movie would be one of those movies that we think of, like, every 10 years it's the anniversary of this movie, and it is this movie's moment, right? Like, did you ever imagine that there would be, cosplay groups that, would be so large that, when you ran out of costumes for productions, that you could call these people up and they would, without even wanting to be paid, volunteer their time and, their costumes to go and be in that universe, right, that you created? Like, did you ever imagine for a second that something like that was possible? And, like, when you started to see that it was, like, what was that moment for you? Right, I think is the question I'd asked him. I guess the question I'd ask Dave would be the moment that it would be his moment for Star Wars. What was his, first time Star Wars was shared with him, right? And, how has that informed the way that he writes Star Wars, the way that he directs it? I guess would be really my questions for the two of them.
Solid freaking questions too, man. I love the one that you'd ask George. We'll have to email it to him, see if we get a response back. Even and to piggyback, to think that it would get so big that he is now opening up a $2.2 billion museum of narrative art in LA. Like, I want to go there so bad when it opens up. I want to catch a freaking Laker game. I want to see the Dodgers play. And I want to go to that freaking museum. That'd be so sick. And really good question with Dave too, man, because I feel like everyone, hopefully, experiences art for the first time and just knowing how they felt, knowing what their perspective was. That's always what I love. I love hearing about people who are just watching things for the first time, and that's why also, to go back to something that you said much earlier, you don't look up opinions or anything. I don't give my opinions on anything now until it's fully finished, until it's fully complete. So when Andor was releasing, I could have made really bad 8 to 15 minute videos, you know, doing breakdowns, doing reviews, doing this, that, the other. But I wanted to let it marinate, and I think it really helped with their release schedule for Andor, how they released it in the year-long arc blocks with the 3 episodes this time. But Andor genuinely changed the way that I view media. And my question with Dave, I'll go inversely. What was the moment in time where you felt the most confident in the Star Wars that you were doing? Like, what was that moment like for you? What was that feeling like? What was it? Was it something simple? Was it something large, like bringing Ezra Bridger to life, bringing Ahsoka Tano to life? I'd love to know, because that's something that I struggle with. Like, is this 1977? Does this feel like, what would it be? If 1977 is where Star Wars takes place, my book starts in 1992. And I keep that in mind. Like, does this feel 1992? Does it feel like that? And I get really self-conscious about it. And Dave's created such great things. He has such a good resume with Avatar, Clone Wars, Rebels, Tales, Ahsoka. I love everything that he touches because he just gets it. And I'd love to know how he'd answer your question for sure. With George, man, I was thinking something silly like, what the hell were you on when you were thinking up all this bullshit? Like,
specifically midichlorians.
Midichlorians, Bosk, in and of itself, like, where the hell did you get these ideas from, man?
Whatever, it's a lizard. It's a lizard alien person. That's not that crazy. Like, you're making aliens. Like, of course, there's a lizard person
that just so happens to wear the flight suit from that goddamn television show, Doctor Who. Wears a flight suit of a character from Doctor Who. But my question to George is, at what point do you sacrifice your integrity for the story? And what does that look like to you? Where was that? What was something that, because obviously Luke was George, and he says that so much. Like, he wrote Star Wars about his life and just wrote the story around it. But at what point did he have to separate himself from the magnitude of what he created, which is Luke Skywalker, which is the most hopeful human being that ever lived, that could look and stare down the face of evil and still feel love for that person? Where does that come from, and just how did it come about? And I'd also like to know, who's the Vader in his life? Who was that person? And did it really bring them to make Star Wars? So.
Yeah, I think that really is genuinely like the biggest thing with people is that, you know, it's one thing to write a character that, and to write their struggles and to all, and their successes, their highs, their lows. It is something completely different to write yourself,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like in a lot of cases, whenever someone really writes off of personal experience, writes themselves or a loved one in as a character, that is when I think some of the most excellent storytelling takes place. I mean, the movie that put George Lucas on the map was American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
And American Graffiti is literally about basically what George's life was like growing up. Like what those characters are doing in that movie is literally just the average day for George Lucas as a 19-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that movie is a cult classic. People love that movie.
That movie is so freaking good.
It is such a fun movie. It's a good movie.
Especially as a dude, It's like
it's hilarious too. It's got such great humor even now.
Yeah.
Humor probably slapped back then because it was because they actually fully understood it. But even now, the humor is still funny because it's a good movie because it was written from the perspective of someone who did those things.
Yeah,
right?
and that's something that like every guy can recognize and realize. Like you might not have gone through it just yet, but like there will come a day where you will hang out with your boys for the last time. When you guys are still the boys. Happened with me and my buddy Ray and Zach. Like we had one last night that it was just us, the boys, as boys. And we knew it was the last night too, because similar to that movie, one or two were shipping off for the military. So you knew that no matter what, like tonight was the night, it was the last night that you were going to hang out. And it showed early on just how it's going to be when they're separated. And then in the end, they all come back together. It's such a great movie. It really is. And like you said, that's the movie that put George on the map. And without Graffiti, we don't get any of this. And it even boiled into his ideas for the prequels too, and how far he was going to take those. And we got lucky. We got lucky to be Star Wars fans, man, because we got very lucky to live in the time that we are, because my dad was a massive Star Wars fan. He's no longer around with us. I'm sure he would have loved to have seen Rogue One or Andor, and would have loved to have heard his thoughts on it and stuff. So I think we're just lucky, We're super lucky. And yeah, Star Wars is sick, and Star Wars is alive. Star Wars is baseball. And baseball is hot in the streets right now. In case you didn't know. Seattle Mariners scored 18 runs today.
Yeah, against a get right team. Like whatever, man. They were playing the Cancun Merchants, the Atlanta Braves, dude.
One thing that I would want to know, and not even from George, but just something that I'd love a bit more depth on, is sports in Star Wars. There's not a lot of depth in the sports realm.
Yeah, the closest I've gotten is I did read some random novel that depicted a Star Wars version of the Olympics.
Interesting.
And where Anakin gets a bit involved with some actual legal pod racing a little bit.
Nice.
And sees some people that he definitely raced against, and the people who work for people he definitely raced against, who had absolutely zero clue who he was anymore.
Nice. It's just like, oh, my name's Annie. It's not Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, so so I would definitely love to see that. Again, just life in the Star Wars universe, because again, my favorite thing about Star Wars is also the implications of the opening text.
Yeah.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The implications of that being that we live in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars is just it just happened a long time ago, somewhere out beyond what the eye can see in the night.
Yeah, that is your interpretation of that. I know that there's multiple ways to view that. Like, you could view that as, and this is the one that I like to subscribe to, that we are, like, each and every single one of us is in the Star Wars universe. But it's ours. You know, it's our personal one. And when we're being told that, when we read that on screen, when we read that in a book, that is the storyteller talking directly to us. That's the way that I like to look at it, because that is how art is meant to be interpreted. Unfortunate, but your opinion about Star Wars means fuck all to me on just a pure emotional level, because the emotions that I feel, the emotions that I gather viewing the art, hearing the art, seeing the art, being touched by the art, like, it is mine. And that's just the way that you've got to view it. I think that we are all a part of the Star Wars universe, and it's how you interpret things, and it's how you think about things. And we're being taught these lessons throughout these movies from great masters, and from great masters to the lowest of low people, like Jadnana Wood, or whatever his freaking name is. Life is what you perceive it to be, and you are the only person in control of your perceptions, because, man, your life is the only life that you're ever gonna freaking live. And to be taught these stories, to be told these lessons, I think it is just, when I hear that people don't like Star Wars, it kind of tells me a little bit about them, you know? That maybe they are afraid of who that kid is on the inside, and what that kid really wanted, and just how connected that they were with their imagination and stuff. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, like, I don't expect everyone to get it, right? Like I said, not everybody is, like, because for some people, right, like, I have a lot of friends who are very, very into comics and into superheroes, right? I have a lot of friends who that's their universe, right? That's their thing, that's their medium, right? You know, I know people, you know, who love X-Men because, you know, they, you know, connect with that idea of, you know, feeling, you know, left out, feeling like they don't fit in, right, because of something. And
that's kind of what I mean too, not just Star Wars, but like, if you don't have your own place, I just feel like you don't have an active soul, an active imagination. If you don't have that escape, maybe you're still looking for it, but as long as you are looking for it, I've just come across some people that just, they're not fans of anything. They don't really have any hobbies. They don't really do much. And it's like, sick, but where are you? We use art to teach history, to learn lessons. Where are you getting these from if you're not interacting with art? And those are the people that are the Cyril Karns of the world, unfortunately. But even Cyril, man, he had his freaking clone action figures. Those are tight.
Those are sick.
He had a sick little setup. Just, yeah, tragic character, man. Tragic character.
Yep.
Did you have any final takes? Any final takeaways before we get up out of here?
I have a feeling that most everybody out there who's willing to sit down and listen to a podcast like this probably did watch Andor. But if you guys didn't, watch Andor, and just sit down and take the time to really ponder um, what you watch and think about one of my favorite statements is that Tony Gilroy generally doesn't write from the newspapers; he writes from the history books, and you can really see that, especially in season 2, and it's wonderful storytelling. But what I will say that I think a lot that's being true of a lot more people who do listen to this is watch Skeleton Crew. If you love Star Wars the way that we love Star Wars, you will have, I think, no regret watching it. You will not. I think you will catch yourself forgetting maybe to have stuck up opinions about it. You will catch yourself forgetting, like thinking about, oh, is this character doing this, whatever. No, you won't be thinking about like, oh, what is this story trying to tell me. You will just genuinely lose yourself in wonder, right? You will genuinely lose yourself in just the entertainment of it, and getting to listen to this story that is told in through such a beautiful lens, right? So I highly encourage you guys to watch that. Won't regret it. Watch Andor. Watch Skeleton Crew.
And I'm hyped for next recording too, because I'll have finished Skeleton Crew by then. So we can
really talk about it.
We can be the first podcast on YouTube, on Spotify, to actually give an in-depth Skeleton Crew review.
Sick. I'll sit down and rewatch it throughout the week.
Yeah.
To make sure that I'm up to date on it.
Absolutely.
Didn't forget too much.
Yeah, and I'll come prepped with some notes, and next week, we'll plan on that. We'll plan to talk about Skeleton Crew. And that'll be episode 48. Episode 50 is going to be a really cool one. It's going to be a really cool one. I hope to have a whole bunch of people on it, but it's going to be kind of like... We're going to have fun. I don't want to spoil anything, but we're going to have fun with it. But until then, guys, head back to your class because the archives are closing. It's been your boy, Bolt, and Tebow. We will catch you guys later. Make sure to drop a like if you liked it. Follow us on X at Star Wars TAP. And as always, don't forget to tap in. Have a good one, folks. Peace out.